Welcome to ENCORE, the arts and culture show here on France24. I'm Jade Barker. Coming up.
I explore all my life things that no one look at, and I'm putting my torch and putting my light on corners and hidden places that no one is looking at.
My guest today is a master of illusionary illustration, constantly exploring the relationship between the negative and the positive, light and dark, war and peace. His award-winning visual double entendres have graced everything from the covers of the New York Times and Don DeLillo novels to the walls of prestigious galleries and advertising posters. Illustrator, graphic designer, artist, he's difficult to pin down. Noma Bar is here with me in the studio, so let's find out more. Hi Noma, great to have you with us.
Hello, hi.
So you're here in Paris for an exhibition at L'Imprimerie Gallery in the Marais neighbourhood. Now it's been described as a collection of all your work. It's called Lookout. For those who aren't familiar with your work, can you tell us a bit more about it?
I look at everyday objects, or I'm just documenting my life when it depends. Sometimes it's commissioned work, but most of my work is actually personal work and things that I see every day. I draw them, and then they become prints, or they become cutouts, they become sculptures. And in all of them, I'm trying to create a story that I'm taking the viewer from one point and is evolve with my work, more discoveries, and people see things and they change their mind, they go back, they discover more. So it's a kind of, when you go for each piece, there is a mini journey, a mini script. Some people see them as poems as well. I look at them as poems.
As visual poetry?
Visual poetry, or, yeah, short script.
You definitely, they're definitely works that you need to look at more than once. And the more you look at it, the more you see in the images or sculptures.
Yeah.
In this exhibition, you're actually displaying some 3D sculptures. Is that a new direction for you?
I think that every time because my work is very flat and 2D, but the way I treat shape, it's actually very close to 3D. If you think of painter that work with brush and create textures and light and shade, my work is, the silhouette is very important and the overall shape, and from that to go to sculpture, it's quite close in a way.
One constant that's definitely in your work, besides this visual storytelling aspect, is this play with negative space. What is it about hiding images within images?
I think that I'm fascinated about moments in life. You know, I'm here in your program. In 5 minutes, I'm going to be somewhere else, and those moments of being somewhere and after 1 second not being there, it fascinates me. So I love to see things and document them. It's quite similar to the way the photographer work, you know.
Is this the way you see the world then? And does that form part of your process?
Yeah. I can sit in the park, and there is one work, I don't know if you're going to show it, which called Point and Sense, and I saw two Labradors, and the male Labrador was sniffing the female Labrador on the back. And then the owner of the dog called him, and the female stayed with her tail up, and you know, just on her own without the other dog. But she was looking back, and she was like, "Where are you? You know, come back," something like that. She was very pleased. And I remember that I took a drawing of the male Labrador inside the female Labrador on the back, which was, you know, a fascinating moment. He was there, and suddenly he wasn't there. But this is life, you know, death. You're alive, you're dead, you're with someone that you love, and 1 second you're not. If you look at relationship, you know, with someone that you can live with someone for 10, 20 years, and in one day it explodes and you know he's not there. So I'm trying to find this kind of the spark, you know, the
double layer to the world.
It's a double layer, but it's when something is there and is not there, and this is the moment of disappearing from a situation excites me.
Your work has been featured on everything from, like I was saying, the New York Times and various other publications like The Guardian, Wallpaper, Don DeLillo novels, as well as you've worked for a lot of advertising brands like IBM and Coca-Cola. Do you think there can be a crossover between art and advertising?
I don't know on other artists. In my case, yeah, it works together, and a lot of time they feeding each other. So I can work on IBM poster, and most of my process is happening in Highgate Wood, which is amazing wood in North London. And while I'm sitting on my regular bench, which is just a plank of wood on the floor, so a lot of things happen around me. So suddenly moving from IBM to a personal thing that I see,
You don't feel there's any difference
so I don't
between
see
the
the difference, no.
Okay.
I'm in kind of one loop of explorations.
Okay.
And
Well, let's take a quick look now at one of the works you did for IBM. This was a Christmas greeting card from 2011.
Okay.
So do you have a preference then where you would rather see your work in a gallery or in an advert?
I think I'm blending the disciplines. I don't care, really. I'm so happy to work with clients, and a lot of time it feeds my art, and my art is feeding the commercial work, and I see it as the same thing as long as I'm there 100%, and yeah.
I want to go back to your beginnings now. You're from Israel originally, but you've lived in London for many, many years. Now, I've read an interview which you said that your hometown was a rather boring small town, and it was the boringness that inspired you to pick up a pen and start drawing.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about how you became an illustrator?
I didn't know that illustration existed. That thing still, because kids don't see illustration is a kind of between disciplines, So you see artists as you see firemen, and you see a carpenter. So I wanted to be artist. This is what I knew that, and then I discovered graphic design and illustration and typography. So these are kind of different disciplines that connect to arts as well.
You said before, though, it all started with Saddam Hussein's face. Can you explain
Hussein I was 17 years old, and I was in shelter. Israel was bombed by Iraq. It was the first Gulf War, and I was with gas mask on my face with steam, and I was looking newspaper, and on the newspaper was just a radioactive icon that illustrate article about Saddam Hussein that bombed his own people and used radioactive materials. And I remember that I looked at the article, and suddenly I did a drawing around the radioactive symbol that suddenly became Saddam Hussein's face. So the top bits become the eyebrows, and the bottom bit of the symbol become mustache. And I didn't do anything with, it was just a sketch in a newspaper. But when I came back to London, and most of my portfolio was with Hebrew typography, so it was made because I studied type design as well. And I realized that there isn't any demand in London for type designers or in Hebrew typography. And I recreated this image and sent it to newspapers and magazines.
And that was your foot in the door?
And that was straight away. I got reaction from The Guardian and Time Out. So it all happened quite fast after. But that was one of the starting points, yeah.
And being Israeli, you obviously spent some time doing your compulsory military service. You were actually in the Navy. Last year, you put on an exhibition called Cut the Conflict, where you invited people in war-torn countries to send in materials, and you made things with them, and the visitors were also invited to create works with them as well. Did growing up in a war-torn country, was that part of the inspiration for this exhibition and other works that you've made?
I think that if we go back to my start and everything, probably the conflict is all over in my work. Even when you see the IBM ads, there is the duality of two things. That's another thing that we talked about before, the being there and not being there, life and death, which probably came from the conflict as well. I was born into two sides in conflict. And I realized that for everything that I do, or everything that I present, or everything that I say, there's two sides. And I think this is something that's very rooted in my work. So Cut the Conflict was an exciting project because I asked people from countries in conflict to send me materials that represent their country. But it could be anything. And it could be paper, it could be newspaper, napkin. And I got amazing materials from Pakistan and from all over the world. But the idea was actually, and it was a bit teasing for the government, because it's just taking the materials that are coming from the
countries,
but bring them together, and it's something I almost forced a dialogue, you know, between those people. They knew that the materials that they send will be mixed with other materials, but it's a big thing for someone from Iran to send something and to know that it's going to be mixed with someone that send materials from Israel. And
really
some people can be
project.
killed in their countries for something like that. So it's a big thing.
Yeah.
And the rule of this project was actually to create two countries. So each work is cut, it's two cuts from each country.
We could speak about your work all day, but unfortunately we're running out of time. We've spoken a lot about what inspires you. You're just talking then about your Israeli background, part of that. Just before we go, we've got time to talk about one last thing, a film that you're quite a fan of. It's called Frank. It was released in the UK last year, but actually it's not coming out here in France until next year. I have to say, when I saw it, the mask that the main character wears did remind me a bit of your work. What is it, just briefly, that you're a fan of this film for?
You need to see the film. It's quite hard to explain, but it's about a rock band. And there is a guy who's the hero, and he's wearing mask. I'm not going to spoil the film, but you will know at the end of the film why he's wearing mask, and it's a mental state, his mask. It's a metaphor for the fact that he is isolated from life, but it's a charming film. I just loved it. And probably the mask reminds me a bit my work as well, so it's like a 3D of one of my portrait.
Absolutely.
And so maybe that was kind of the start of the connection to the film.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Noma Bar, for coming in and speaking with us today. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you at home for tuning in. If you'd like to see more of Noma Bar's work, his exhibition Lookout is on until the 20th of December at l'Imprimerie Gallery here in Paris. We're going to leave you now with an excerpt from Frank. Enjoy and see you for more culture soon.
Frank finds inspiration in everything.
I find this inspiring.
How does he do this? If I'm to grow as an artist, I must see as he sees.
We could make an entire album on this one sound.
I dedicate myself to learning his secret, and I will not let anybody get in my way, however desperately they may try.
Somebody's thinking of the key of